Welcome to Australian Hunger. I am your host, Ben. On today's show, I've got an interview with Scoparia, a progressive metal band from Hobart down in the very, very south of the country. Their album Renewal out now. Just before that, these episodes have been a little bit brief just because I've got so much going on. Had 5 interviews last week, got 3 interviews this week. I'm still not holidays, I'm still not quite settled into a good rhythm, but hopefully we'll get there. Just a follow-up thought that I actually had to where I want this show to go. I'm not sure if this show's going to get there, because it's kind of difficult for a couple of reasons, and I'll explain. But something that I would love if this show could kind of add to the whole mix is maybe more banter with some of the guests. It's more discussion about kind of random topics as opposed to just the things that they've worked on recently. That's kind of a little bit difficult because to have banter, you kind of need to know someone a little bit. And by definition, all these conversations are kind of up front. I get to know someone and 2 minutes later I'm asking them questions about their band and their life. So it can be a little bit difficult. And also, not everyone's comfortable doing banter. Even if theoretically someone came on the show, I don't know them, but they're comfortable doing banter, that's not going to be everyone every week. So, I've had some brief little back and forth with some of, I think, the imperfectionists. We were talking about Broken Side with Sim from Seams, who we recorded a 2-hour interview with. We had a little bit of conversations before and after. Really, really fun, and I think that could add a little bit of flavour to the show. But that's the thing. Can I do it? Is it possible? And with the current construction of the show, maybe not, but who knows? It's something to think about. So I talk with all the guys from Scoparia, something you don't get very often with a band with 5 members. But yeah, really, really great chat about their new album, Renewal. The tracks that I played during the interview were first up, Renewal, second up, Fallen, and the last track at the end of the interview is Lucidity. This is Scoparia. Guys, can you introduce yourselves and what you do in the band?
My name's Ben Ridges and I'm the vocalist.
I'm Luke Tucker and I'm one of the guitarists.
Alistair Boone, bass.
I'm Charlie Wood and I'm the other guitar player.
Yeah, I'm Josh Bowling and I'm the drums or skins.
Let's start at the beginning. When did the band begin? How did it start?
Sort of began roughly a few years ago. I can't remember the exact date.
Would have been around 2013, do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so. But basically, the band started out with myself and Jason Maurice, who's not with us anymore. But and then Josh Bowling joined soon after that, and then the rest is history. Luke and Alistair joined later on, and we've also got our newest member Charlie, who is our latest guitarist.
Yeah, I've been in the band since about it would have been March or April, March.
Yeah, maybe even April.
Yeah,
after
April.
that, yeah.
So he's getting to grips with the songs. And yeah, everything's going really smooth.
How did the name come about?
Scoparia is the name of a plant that grows in the highlands of central Tasmania, and basically it's this prickly bastard of a plant. you don't want to go near it at all because it fucking stings.
Sums up.
But it's a beautiful plant to look at. So I think that sort of encapsulates the nature of our music somewhat.
And we sort of tried to work that in with the way we have the artwork as well.
Yeah.
Even on the Renewal cover, that's sort of like a Scoparia plant combined with a snake.
How would you describe the sound of the band, and what are the influences that have gone into that?
it's a good question. I suppose one of the really like heavy influences would be kind of early Opeth and stuff, and we're getting a lot of comments
definitely.
recently since the release of the album saying that it's quite similar to that.
Yeah.
So we're all Opeth fans, aren't we?
Yeah. So it's just that kind of, I guess it's that like you could say it's that real heavy kind of Opeth-y death metal sound meets some more kind of modern, clean kind of vocals and clean sections, stuff, that kind of thing.
I mean, some of the stuff I was really digging, especially while we were writing this particular album, I was like listening to a lot of Fallujah and a lot of like Neobliviscaris as well. Awesome guys. So bringing a lot more of that sort of like, definitely on the more atmospheric side of like prog death metal kind of thing.
So you mentioned the album. Let's go to that. When did you start working on this album? Obviously, you released the EP back in 2016. When did this album start to? Did you begin the process of it?
These are sort of the songs that we've had kicking around since the start. Like even when we were doing Idle Stream, we had these songs, but they've sort of evolved over time to the point that we recorded them, which was mid 2017 now.
Well, they've just been like, the good thing is like when we started the band, we we're also still like developing our skills, doing that sort of thing. And the good thing is like the songs have kind of evolved as we have.
Yeah. So
it's really like, we're starting to see a lot more of what we want to have the band sound like. Whereas if we'd recorded these songs 5 years ago, it would have been a totally different beast.
Yeah, for sure.
It's funny because you listen to the EP and with some bands you there's not quite much going on there. With some bands like you can like, oh yeah, there's definitely potential, and then there's that transition between the EP album and it's like the album is just like, yep, they've got it. They've made something really good. What kind of lessons did you take from recording that EP?
Oh, a lot.
A lot, but probably not as many lessons as we learnt from recording the album, to be fully realistic. I mean, that's just been the biggest learning curve for us, I think.
Yeah, I guess the thing is, like with the EP, that was entirely done at home. So one good thing about that was we got as much time as we wanted just to sort of like, we spent ages just working on, background sound effects, all that sort of thing, just really trying to make it, and it took us ages just to track the stuff properly because we weren't as good as musicians as I feel we are now. But with this album, it's just been like, we did a lot of recording in Melbourne and then we brought it back to Hobart and recorded with a guy locally, like this guy, Joe Haley from Psychroptic. So he sort of finished off our album, but it definitely took over a year of sort of on and off work to get it done.
Yeah, sure.
No, but the EP was definitely a crash course in tracking ourselves, and we did a lot of tracking ourselves for this album at home, which is a great cost-effective and also creatively allows you a lot of space to go back and change stuff. And yeah, it kind of eliminated a lot of the pressures of like having studio time. These guys track stuff and then we're able to go back and kind of take their time with it.
Well, that's it. I feel like because you're paying for studio time, so rather than spending that time recording ourselves, we did all that at home, but we got to sit with the engineer and just, get a lot of that, make sure everything's just mixed really nicely and, have a cool, have all those little stereo effects and stuff like that just to keep it interesting, just so it's more than just like a recording, it's like an album. Yeah.
And what lessons did you take from making this album that you might take into a next?
Just, I think, from our perspective, we've learnt a lot, like engineering-wise. So we feel pretty confident that we can do a lot of if we were going to do another album, we could do most of it ourselves.
Yeah.
So that would cut costs for us significantly.
And it also made we just get that chance to be a bit more creative with what we're doing, and not like rush for time.
We can spend much more time getting, the perfect take, making sure it's the perfect notes and whatever,
And also with the various stages that each of us is in with everything else, apart from the band, it means that we can work around everyone's lifestyles and record at different times and at different paces, and it makes it a lot more flexible that way.
Yeah.
In terms of like actual writing material, how does that work in the band?
Can I explain it then?
Yeah, well, sort of for me personally, I get ideas and then I write them into sort of guitar tabulature software, which I then distribute to the rest of the band, and they give their opinion and whether they like it or not, and then it sort of evolves from that. So I might come up with a song which is a collection of riffs, and the band will have some input on how it sort of evolves from there, and everyone contributes in that sense, like writing riffs, and it's all done in that way. So it starts off as a guitar tab and evolves from there.
Yeah, so it's just like this process of presenting ideas and reworking ideas over a course of however many weeks or months or whatever, until we could end up with a product that we're all happy with.
Yeah. Let's just say that, most of the time it's, it'd be one or two people kind of work on the song as a framework, and then everyone else chips in to sort of help develop it into what you actually hear on the album.
Yeah.
Because, once we get into the practice room as well with our framework, it always will change quite significantly, because some bits just won't work as well, or they won't work the way we thought they would, and with something else, someone might have a spark of inspiration when we're in the practice room, and they'll change. Like the album that we've on Renewal, those songs evolved over like 2 years, pretty much.
What was it specifically about sort of you being improved musicians that kind of changes those songs that you'd been working on from early on?
Just, I guess, the small details sort of get added in over time. The stuff that you wouldn't have thought of, but on repeat listens, they sort of get added in and add to the whole song.
Especially in terms
really
of like arrangement-wise. Like the big thing is, most of these are pretty long songs, so it's hard to find a way to make it sort of feel like it's got that drive and push through the whole thing. So we really spent a lot of time and on making sure those transitions between all the riffs and song sections just sort of feels natural, so it's not like jarring as you're going through it. So that was I feel like we learned a lot from the past album to this one, just sort of being slightly better musicians at this point. And just being able to hear the end product and know you're able to achieve that as well has been a good thing. So just got the skills to actually get down on recording what you want to hear.
In terms of the shorter songs on the album, then there are quite a few of them.
War is ugly. For the decayed and degraded state, moral and patriotic feeling states that nothing is worth a war. It's much worse. War to protect other human beings against tyrannical injustice. War to give victory to their own ideas of right and good, which often means their regeneration. This is the time for renewal.
How did those come about? Is there like a different way those arise, and like what purpose do they serve in the structure of the album?
Those, probably all the shorter songs in the album were part of other songs, but we decided to cut them and turn them into their own song just to
Kind of help break the album up a little bit and provide a bit of contrast between some of the heavier sections of the album.
And the album does have, like we try and keep like musical themes and lyrical themes sort of consistent going through. So it's, it's not an album that you sit down and just think, oh yeah, all right, I'm going to listen to this one song and that's it. Like we really, we all grew up on just listening to albums as a whole and sort of sitting down and appreciating music in that way. So that's something we definitely tried to get across, just making sure we've got those tracks in the right order to communicate what we want.
In terms of lyrics, where do they come from in the band?
Lyrics are sort of come after we've written the music.
Yeah, definitely.
We've all chipped in with lyrics. a lot of it's me and Luke. But they're all sort of part of this overarching theme. We have this fictional world where these people worship different gods, and they all go to war. And every few hundred years or so, there's a self-destruction of mankind, and then everything regenerates, and it's an endless cycle of that. And that's sort of the theme of the album. And the songs are really reflections of people that live in that world, like what they're going through, and also stories of a man who, in our album, is called The Martyr, and he's sort of trying to change this process. You would want to add to that?
Yeah, I guess it's just like this, this timeline is to repeat itself over and over, like for eternity. But, this one time, there's, something's different. There's this one guy who sort of wants to make a bit of a change. So, he sort of sparks this revolution and stops this cycle from continuing.
Yeah.
And that's the whole idea of, renewal. It's like he's trying to sort of renew this sort of messed up universe he's in.
Was there any particular sources of inspiration for the concept behind this?
I was, again, the same with the music. It's something, an initial idea we had a long time ago, which has sort of evolved, sort of added to it. But I mean, yeah,
definitely like stuff like V for Vendetta and that, that sort of thing.
Yeah, just, movies about martyrs and trying to overthrow the corrupt society.
And we've all been into sort of like fantasy and sci-fi and that sort of thing, so it's pretty obviously rips from a lot of those common themes. But we sort of hope it comes from the heart a bit. It's all like genuine stuff from us.
Yeah.
In terms of vocals, sort of two questions kind of spring up from that aspect of the album. There's a lot of sections of spoken word. When did the idea come to include those, and what's the function of those in the album?
So they're sort of serving the story, and they're actually, a lot of the stuff we used were quotes from a man I can't remember the name of now.
It's been too long.
Yeah. But his quotes sort of are very strongly tied into the theme of the album, and we just thought they really served to perpetuate the storytelling of the album quite a lot. And there was just sections that we felt that could really use those spoken word elements sort of for pacing.
Yeah, because there's a lot of the album is singing most of the time, so it's nice to have not quite full instrumental breaks, but have something there to kind of push it along. But
they kind of serve the same purpose as those as the transitional kind of transitional pieces on the album. They're just there to help kind of break it up a little bit and help to kind of tell the narrative that we're trying to talk about throughout the whole length of the album.
I guess saying like they're not all sort of just random stuff. They're definitely set to the songs. Like saying a song like Catalyst, you've got one of the lines in that, this spoken word line. It's like the snake that cannot shed its skin has to die. So it's sort of like, in a way, it's like the martyr's way of saying that, look, if this sort of like this cycle doesn't stop, it's just not like it's not feasible to keep us going.
So I guess you can think of them as like storytelling aids.
Yeah.
If you want to like have a synopsis of it.
When did you decide you want to add Victoria Graves' vocals to the mix?
He's the sister of a really close friend of mine, and we were doing a song sort of in between Idle's Dream and this album. It never actually got released.
Yeah, we never probably released it, but it will happen.
We always knew we wanted a female vocalist for that song, and we were struggling to find someone, and then it finally clicked, and I knew this guy, my mate, who had a sister who was a really strong vocalist, and she was happy to provide her pipes for that song, which we were really impressed with. So we decided for this album that we'll just get her along to do some more vocals, which we really liked and thought they really enriched the album.
Yeah. But I think we've always found the idea of the female vocals really interesting because it's quite rare in the heavier forms of music, and it creates quite a nice bit of contrast and smoothens out a lot of I think they really blend with Ben's vocals really well, and just add a whole other dynamic that we would have been without.
I guess that's it. It's pretty rare getting, it's rare as far as I know, getting like totally clean female vocals over some pretty heavy death metal stuff at times. So that's something that, sort of a bit different.
Joe Haley, as you've mentioned, he helped you finish off the album. How'd you kind of get involved with him?
He's just a local Hobart lad.
Some of us had worked with him previously. Like he did the mastering for an album that I released with a band a couple of years ago, and I was like stoked with his work, and so I guess it's just like we knew him locally, and because of Psychroptic, we knew he was doing mixing and mastering and stuff, so we figured it'd be a good choice to at least approach about it.
Yeah, Psychroptic are pretty huge in Hobart, as being the local guys. That they're the success story really. I got guitar lessons from Joe a while ago when I was younger, and he's just really, really easy to work with.
That's it. He's like a brutal guitarist, in one of the heaviest bands out there, but he's just such a chill, such a nice sort of guy. So it's really easy to work with.
Yeah, super professional too.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of asked him I kind of talked to him about an idea that we had for mixing, and it was just straight up. He always was on the ball, and just a real pleasure to work with.
To round some other aspects of the album up, where does the title come from? I know we've obviously talked about the concept, there's a song in the album, but specifically, how did you decide Renewal? That's the title we want.
Well, we had the track Renewal, and basically we were thinking of names for the album, and we weren't originally going to have a title track, but we just thought that sort of summed up everything that the album's about, so we kind of just thought it has to be that.
It's basically, it's that one point that, suddenly this universe, there's that big change in it. So, that's the significant event in this particular story, so we just wanted to sort of highlight that for the title. And that's, if you really get stuck in and you pick apart the lyrics however you want. A lot of it's up to interpretation, but if you pick apart the lyrics, you'll get that sense that, things were dark and now they're starting to get better.
For the artwork, who did you get to do that, and what was their brief?
So we got the talents of Adrian Baxter to do the front cover.
Yeah.
And we had the idea of the snake, which is something we all sort of came up with.
Yeah.
Snake sort of in the theme of regeneration, so that they had the dead roots at the bottom of the album, and then you've got the flourishing flowers coming up and the snake coming out of the flowers. And I don't know if you've noticed, but in the corner of each corner of the album cover, there's 4 different symbols, and they each represent one of the 4 gods that is a part of the universe.
But I guess growing up in Tassie as well, it's like snakes are pretty common down here, as well as this native plant that is our namesake. It just kind of was, but also the way the flowers work in with the the deadliness of some of Tasmania's snakes, which are the deadliest in the world, and it kind of met up nicely with our themes and goals as a band. So it's kind of worked out perfectly. Yeah,
we are sort of just we love the state that we live in, Tasmania, so we're sort of keen to promote it however we can through metal, really.
Yeah. But in the physical copy of the album, which we should have released soon, in the booklet of that we actually have the artwork of another artist called Nesta Avalos, and he's done his interpretation of the four gods, which is featured in the booklet.
So, Charlie joined the band a little bit after Jason left. How'd you get involved with the band?
Well, I'd worked with Alistair for quite a few years. We'd gone to music school together, and he'd been one of my really close friends for a very long time. And through him, I knew of Luke, who I'd played in a band previously that we played gigs with the old lineup of Scoparia. And just kind of one thing led to another, and they asked me if I would be interested in coming along and having a hit, and ended up having a great time and really loving the music. So, yeah, that's the rest is history.
So I always like to browse around if there's any other kind of notes that I can add at the top of the show. Is there any live shows you got planned for the future?
Well, yeah, this year we're sort of got a tour in mind that we want to organise, but as of yet we haven't sort of organised any dates for that. But that's definitely the next thing we want to plan.
Yeah, it's spent the time trying to make the music right, making sure we've got something good to put out that we're happy to put our name behind.
Yeah.
So now we've got that, it's all about, just making sure that there's a live show just to match the music. So, really spending a lot of time, putting together a few backing parts, having a great light show, consistent light show that we can take between each gig. Just really trying to make it more of a proper performance, like a stage performance, rather than just a bunch of hairy dudes getting up on stage and playing metal.
So just to answer your question, we'll have hopefully have some tour dates and gigs and stuff coming in the next couple months.
Yeah.
Just once we kind of finalise all the details of how we want to present the album.
But we'll be over to the mainland this year, first half of this year for sure, I reckon.
That's the plan.
Because we just want to get out there. We've done the recording, and we're keen to play. So we've programmed the light show ourselves. That was really fun. And yeah, really keen to get over there.
I often ask bands what they're trying to do when they're playing a show. Why is it important for you guys that it not be just a collection of songs played by a bunch of guys, but a proper sort of show with thought to lighting and stuff like that?
I guess we're just trying to see how far we can take performance and how professional and how tight we can make something appear and sound. We kind of spend so much time getting the album right that it becomes really important to us to have a show that kind of matches that level of attention to detail. And we want to be able to be proud of every aspect of the performance and every aspect of the music that we produce.
I think all of us are kind of a little bit perfectionist with the way we look at it, and just having the option of doing a light show and stuff there, we had to do it because it was there, and we found an easy-ish way to set it up. But I guess the other thing is none of us are the classical we're not really I'm not really sure.
We're not purist heavy metal guys, most of us. We're into that, but we kind of want to incorporate aspects of all the music that we're into, and we wanted to amalgamate all our different ideas and stuff to enjoy every aspect.
None of us are the kind of the guys that would rip our shirts off on stage.
I don't know about that.
That way. Well, yeah, maybe not. But it just means that it's just extra stuff we can put in wherever we can, and that makes it much more fun for us. Yeah.
And I guess one more thing as well is we've played a few gigs where we've had just awesome sound and a wicked light show behind us. And it's just so much easier to lose yourself as a musician when you play those gigs. They just feel so good. It feels like that's what we've actually been really working for all this time. So we just want to do what we can to keep doing more gigs that are just fun for us, but at the same time, not just us trying to show off our music or anything. It's really an experience for people that they can go away and actually remember the show. That's really the goal for us, that and what we think is good music.
Yeah, because we're all massive fans of going to live shows, and we sat down and we we talked about what we liked and didn't like about certain shows that we had seen, and yeah, what made them stick with us. And we just thought, you know, whatever we can add to make it more memorable, like we should just go for as much as we can, and if we want to tone it back in the future, we can. But to just have that option there is, yeah, really good.
Yeah.
kind of go around the table, as it were, and kind of get your guys' perspective on a couple of different topics. So there seems to be a little bit of variety in the kind of music you guys are interested in. I wanted to you just talk a little bit about like how you first got into the music you're passionate about, whether it be heavy or other, and what is it about it that attracts you to it?
Start with Josh.
Yeah, look, I think when I really started listening to heavy and progressive music, might have been when when I was about 13, and my dad was really into it, and I thought it was a bit interesting because my dad at the time, he was a business banker, a corporate professional, and I thought, well, this is really interesting. He's into this alternative sort of music, and him being a drummer himself, I think I got a lot of inspiration to just play and enjoy it. I was really into a lot of the old school death metal music, and sort of as I grew up, I started getting into Porcupine Tree and Opeth and all those other sort of bands, and yeah, I think it's just kind of gone from there.
Charlie here.
Yeah. I guess my take on it is like I was always into like any kind of music that held my interest. So from a young age, I was always grew my hair out and wanted to like play fast guitar and listen to this kind of heavy music. But at the same time, I was also really interested in like jazz guitar and funk and anything that I could like kind of get my teeth into, I guess you could say. And so I guess like after having like I studied jazz and played guitar in multiple funk bands and stuff, I guess heavy metal and that kind of this kind of technical music just presented another challenge and something else that I am really interested in. It's just another platform for expressing a kind of a musical idea and the kind of way I want to play and pursue playing the guitar.
I guess for me, this is Al. I guess for me, like I went through high school playing in like a Metallica cover band. Always loved metal from the first time I heard it, but going into a bit later, like I really started loving and finding new bands like kind of the early prog bands like Yes and Rush and all those guys, and I really just loved their use of off the wall time signatures and textural variety. Like I really liked the use of different textures and stuff like that, and it just seemed like I've stumbled upon listening to Opeth and a few other bands. It just hit me that's like it was just the perfect combination of a few different of those different genres that I really loved, so it just kind of made perfect sense. And luckily I found a bunch of guys who felt the same way.
So it's Luke here. I've got a weird musical background. Like as a kid, Dad always used to chuck on heaps of blues CDs and that sort of thing. So I was always just listening to, blues like Stevie Ray Vaughan, all the sort of like really old blues guys. And I sort of just absorbed a lot of that stuff, but never really like played music. And after that, I sort of got into high school, started getting into, just weird bands like Red Hot Chili Peppers and stuff like that. So, not metal at all. It was sort of when I started playing guitar and learning a bit about guitar soloing, I got into, some of those like instrumental rock guys like Joe Satriani, Steve Vai, and that led me on to John Petrucci from Dream Theater. And that was like, as soon as I saw that band, that was just, a big moment for me. So I had a couple of years of just smashing Dream Theater. And I guess from there, Dream Theater, that kind of progressive metal sound just opens you up to so many different bands because they, introduce you to so many different styles, definitely moved into some of the sort of heavier sides of some of the bands after that, like Between the Buried and Me. Opeth was a big one for me, of course. And from there, just sort of kept going down the rabbit hole. More recently, I've just been into stuff like Nebula Viscaris, Fallujah, all that sort of really, I know it's it's metal, but with a lot of thought that's gone into it. But yeah, I like pretty much anything, and that's me.
Yeah, Ben here. Like, I guess in high school and college, I was sort of into like thrash metal, death metal, like, you know, Morbid Angel and Creator and that kind of stuff, like really heavy stuff. But I was also into like really melodic stuff. You know, I love banging choruses and all that kind of stuff. And then later on, I sort of got into prog because it sort of had a bit of both those worlds, which I really enjoyed. And so I got into bands like Opeth, and I just kept trying to find more and more bands that sort of suit that niche that I really like. And I spent a lot of time sort of researching new bands, trying to find new artists that I really like. And that sort of, nowadays I listen to sort of the lesser known artists, I guess.
All you guys playing instruments, I think generally it's a fairly similar answer about getting into it in school. Obviously, add anything if it's a little bit different for you. But I think the more important question is why did you stick with it? What sort of resonance did it hold for you guys that it meant that you wanted to keep playing it and sort of pursue it in a greater degree?
I guess, like it's Luke here, I guess the thing for me is it's just like it's rare, especially in a small state like Tassie, it's rare to find just a bunch of guys with like different interests, but in a way sort of like with a similar vision for a band. And like everyone's just so motivated to do it. Everyone wants to write original music that, you know, that they feel passionate about, that, you know, we don't feel is just trying to jump on board a trend or, you know, pay the bills or do anything like that. It's basically just a bunch of guys, bunch of mates we can all hang out with, have a good time, and also write music that we care about.
Yeah, Al here. Yeah, I think a lot of people would like to say that it's the push of, you know, pushing your creative boundaries and stuff like that. But yeah, for me, it's primarily been just the people. You know, the people that you meet along the way who are just all tied together with that same interest, and you immediately click, and it's, you know, you're able to do something together that you love. But it's certainly also like finding new music, you know, that you're really interested in, exploring it, playing it, you know, letting that push your technical ability is all really engaging, and yeah, it keeps you to it. So yeah,
I suppose it's also, we just find ourselves in the fortunate position of like being in a band with people that we're all on the same page, we all have the same kind of goals, and we all get along with each other, and we're all just as committed to it as each other, which is just, anyone who's worked in a band will know just how rare of a thing that is to find people who are willing to put the time in and kind of work really well together.
And Ben, single you out because vocals I often feel are kind of unique in this sort of kind of a band. When do you start doing them, and like when did you start pursuing the kind of two different sides of that, the heavier side and the more melodic side?
Well, in school I was, you know, sort of always forced to go in choirs and stuff, so I had a bit of a singing background there. And then with death metal, I kind of listened to that, you know, and just tried to mimic it, I guess, and come up with my own style, and it's something that I've refined over time. And
you guys have talked a little bit about your kind of love of Tasmania. I wanted you to kind of expand on that. Like, what was it? What is it that's sort of meaningful to you guys about Tasmania? How does that kind of inform the work that you do?
Well, I guess it's because Tasmania is such, you know, has a vast wilderness, and, you know, it's very mountainous. We're all sort of keen on camping and outdoor activities, so I guess we draw a lot of inspiration from the isolation of those wildernesses, I guess, and
the kind of the uniqueness of Tasmania's kind of native flora and fauna, and just how pristine and kind of beautiful Tasmania is as a place.
I think as well, for metal as well, like Tasmania has a lot of similarities to those Scandinavian countries where, you know, where metal is the most popular it is in the world. You know, like you know, you think about Finland or Norway, and it's the same. It's the remoteness. It's the mountains. It really lends, that image really lends itself to the music in a very complimentary way. And yeah, the fact that in Hobart you can drive for half an hour and you're in that wilderness.
Try 5 minutes.
Try 5 minutes, yeah, to the top of the mountain.
And I suppose Tasmanian bushland can also be a very kind of harsh, unforgiving kind of place. And you know, there's a lot of really poisonous, kind of dangerous animals and stuff around.
Yeah. I guess when you consider the weather in Tasmania, it's constantly changing at the click of the thumb, which is sort of how our music is, I guess.
So yeah, I guess you've got this epic sort of, you know, almost sort of dangerous, mysterious scenery, which is really just like, it's inspiring for writing what we hope is epic music.
What have you guys been listening to, reading, or watching lately?
A lot of Behemoth, I think. I think that's one between all members of the band at the moment. A lot of Behemoth.
Yeah, I've been really digging the Ocean's new album, their Paleozoic album. I think that's probably one of my favourite albums that came out last year, and that's sort of one we've been listening to quite a lot.
Great new album from Alkaloid this year as well.
Yeah.
Been digging that. Also, shout out again to Joe from Psychroptic on their album they released late last year. That was an absolute killer, and
We've all been copying that a fair bit. Really great album.
Yeah, like surely, you know, that's got to be one of the top metal albums of all time. Like, it's just so developed and well rounded, and just like the playing on it's just extreme. So yeah, they've done an awesome job with that.
That was Lucidity. Before that, we heard Fallen, and the first track was Renewal from the album Renewal by Scoparia. Thanks to all the guys for getting together. It can be really difficult, all people living their separate lives, and I really appreciate them sort of gathering together for one night and having a chat with me. Really, really cool conversation with the boys from Hobart. That's all I've got time for today. If you want to get in touch with me, social media, OzHunger on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, and you can also send me an email, australianhunger@gmail.com. If you're a band who's interested in an interview, send me an email. We'll see if we can work something out. But for now, in many more interviews to come, bye.